I found this as last night, as of the night that I'm recording this. It was actually on my way home after selling some games and shit. I got your food back there. Jesus, what? What? Okay, I'm so. Do you want down? Oh man, I gotta clean you. What is that? What is that caked on your fur? Fuck's sakes. Anyway, let me say. Would you be quiet? I saw this video, or I had all this recorded, and then I came across the new information, and then while I had the new information, I decided, okay, I'm gonna start recording. Then while I was trying to get everything ready, my links and all that, I saw this from Steven Crowder. I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen to this in the background and get everything. And when he got to talking about Blair White and they were talking about trans suicide, I don't know why I said it like that, but while they were talking about it, she was saying about how some trans people's families don't really accept them, and that's where one of the times we see higher suicide rates among trans people. Do you want me to? What the hell do you want? I'm gonna have to keep an eye on that. Anyway, and all that other stuff. So, I thought I should probably look into this and see what's up. Or I already did, but I thought I should try and address it with some of the information I got. As unbiased as at least as I could make it. So let me get into this. Right here. Males take their own lives at nearly 4 times the rate of females and represent 77.9% of all suicides. Females are more likely than males to have suicidal thoughts. And one of the other reasons I want to bring this up is because I hear a lot of male rights activists and even people who are against feminism, such as I think Blair White has. I'm not sure. I think Anna Mae Rennie and some other people. And don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against any of these people. It's just, yes, what they're saying is true that men do commit suicide more often. But where they're wrong is the fact that women actually do attempt it. They have the thoughts, they attempt it, and they attempt it more. Right here, poisoning is the most common method of suicide for females, and that's, why are you biting me? And it's usually like, with pills and stuff like that. Just trying to, do that with pills. And according to some women I've talked to about this, they're just basically calling these women greedy. Or not greedy. Yeah, greedy, selfish, whatever. They just want the attention and blah, blah, blah. I don't know about all that. Yes, suicide in itself is a cry for help, supposedly. Usually I think it's a cry for help and some, like, attention seeking, so I'm not putting that just on women. But anyway, let's look into the next one. Gender bias occurs in treatment of psychological disorders. Doctors are more likely to diagnose depression in women compared with men, even when they have similar scores on standardized measures of depression or present with identical symptoms. Predator being prescribed mood-altering psychopatric drugs. Gender differences exist in patterns of help seeking for psychological disorder. Women are more likely to seek help from and disclose mental health problems to their primary health care physician, while men are more likely to seek specialist mental health care and are the principal users of inpatient care. Men are more likely than women to disclose problems with alcohol use with their healthcare provider. Gender stereotypes regarding pronouns and emotional problems in women and alcohol problems in men appear to reinforce social stigma and constrain help seeking along stereotypical lines. They are a barrier to the accurate identification and treatment of psychological disorders. Despite these differences, most women and men experience emotional distress and/or psychological disorders are neither identified or treated by their doctor. Violence, poorly identified in women are reluctant to disclose history of violent victimization unless physicians ask about it. Okay, so even that's kind of a problem too. And I guess I would explain why there's probably more of a thought. I don't know. Keep in mind, this is WHO. This is not like some, I guess, psychology.gov thing. I don't know. You know what I mean. It's not really a .gov website. I guess it kind of is. You know what I mean. It doesn't say .gov here. Is what I mean. But I imagine it is a .gov, or it is a type of government website. And as I said, I try and keep everything as unbiased as possible. And this is actually how I get my politics. By going for as unbiased information and getting the information and seeing what I can get from there. I admit I don't agree with everything. So, for example, I've seen studies quote other government bodies quote CDC about the 1 in 5 thing, and then even the I forget who it was who I think it was Christina Hoff Sommers. I think Steven Crowder actually showed the link on his channel, or the thumbnail or the title, whatever, where the women who came up with the 1 in 5 thing were saying, do not believe the 1 in 5, because they even said it was just like a simple basis. I forget, it was something like that. They weren't saying don't dismiss a lot of women are raped, but it was saying that 1 in 5 is too high. And I'm gonna have to do a video on the whole 1 in 5 thing sometime, just because, and see. I mean, again, could be wrong. I doubt it. That's a pretty high number. I mean, now they were saying like from molestation as a child to even at least attempted and successful rapes. At least if they were to broaden it, then I could be like, okay, I can kind of see the 1 in 5, because statistically speaking, young girls are more of a victim, or a much higher victim status than males. So if you take that and then you add on the thing of rape, like into adulthood, or attempted, even molestation as an adult, I can kind of see it. Anyway, back to suicide in women. Suicide is a global public health problem. Asia accounts for 60% of the world's suicides, so at least 60 million people are affected by suicide or attempted suicide in Asia each year. The burden of female suicidal behavior in terms of total burden of morbidity and mortality combined is more in women than in men. Women's greater vulnerability to suicidal behavior is likely to be due to gender-related vulnerability to psychopathology and psychosocial stressors. Suicide prevention programs should incorporate women's specific strategies, more research on suicide behavior in women, particularly in developing countries, as needed. Okay, well, these are keywords. But, see, I can agree with this. If you have a group of people who are more likely to commit suicide, then those are the people you're gonna want to look into. Yes, men have a higher success rate, but this is where I'm against people on the right, because they get mad at feminists for not bringing this up. And feminists normally don't unless you call them out on it. But then their answer is, well, if men were allowed to be more emotional. Well, they say kind of like women. Well, if men were more emotional, using firearms, and then, more likely to use firearms or, I guess, car crashes where men tend to be more violent with their suicide, would cause that number to skyrocket. So I don't agree with the whole telling men to be more emotional, because then that just screws everything over. Or that's going to increase those numbers. So I don't agree there. But at the same time, it is a higher number, so it should kind of be addressed. But women are the ones who attempt it more, who even consider it more. Therefore, yes, I agree, more research needs to be looked into them. If this makes any sense. Although more women than men attempt suicide, men are almost 4 times more likely than women to die by suicide. One reason is that men are more likely to use deadlier means, such as firearms, when they set out to take their own lives. The reason some people want to take their own lives are the complex. We do not know how that many people who die by suicide have a mental illness, usually depression or substance use problems, or both. And I worked with a woman who, I used to work with a woman who did OD, and supposedly it was a suicide. Now, the last time I do remember seeing her, she was crying because she missed her son's first steps and a couple other things. But she was a single mom. and she was depressed. And this is one thing, those you've probably heard those studies saying that women are much or nowhere near as happy as they used to be. You know, they're more depressed and so on. Which I've never, in all my years, I've never seen a man cry for missing his child's first anything. Now, I'm not saying fathers don't care about their kids. I'm just saying I have yet to see this. But I have at least seen this one woman cry about it. And I've heard other women talk about it, but it was kind of like after the fact. And they were, it was after the fact and they were still a little down about it. They weren't crying, at least the times they talked about it, but still. I'm not saying women belong at home in the kitchen and this and that. I'm just saying that you can't ignore the fact that we're biologically different. Anyway, so I'm just going to skip all that and let's get into the rest of this. And here's a summary of this part right here. Experience discrimination, harassment, suicide among people in the whole LGBT community. Where is it? Transgender and gender non-conforming adults. So, I'm not going to hide anything. Family choose not to speak, spend time with them. 57. Discrimination, victim of violence at school, work, and accessing health care. Harassed or bullied at school. Experience discrimination, harassment at work. Doctor or healthcare provider refused to treat them. And Blair White was saying that, she doesn't think getting a sex change is the thing that they should all do, because not everyone can pass. She was one of the few people who could pass. I don't suffer from gender dysphoria, but I'm a pretty small dude. I don't even have much of an Adam's apple. I could probably fucking pass. Oh, sorry about that. Discrimination, victimization, or violence by law enforcement. And see, this is something that neither side talks about. And this includes people on the left who are all about, because they're bullied. Well, then, the very people, doctors refusing, okay, they kind of talk about that, I think. Suffered physical or sexual violence by law enforcement. See, that right there is a problem, too. I'm not trying to blame all police, but holy shit. Experience homelessness. Okay, I'm sorry. That's everybody. Not everybody, but that's both. That's no matter what you are, man, woman, tranny, whatever. That's just the way it is. But those whoever one they are, transgender, gender non-conforming, 50%. See, but just allowing someone to get an operation doesn't necessarily mean lower than risk. And don't worry, I'll be posting this in links. But this right here is I saw right here. Perceived recognition by others as transgenders, gender non-conforming was also examined as possibility contribution to variations in lifetime suicide attempt rates among NTDS, I guess, non-conforming, whatever, I don't know what the hell. Respondents for this analysis, we looked at responses to the questionnaire item. People can tell I'm transgender, gender non-conforming, even if I don't tell them. This item measured respondents' perceptions of how often others recognize the respondents as transgender or gender non-conforming. As can be seen in Table 6, lifetime suicide attempts were found to be low as 36%. Among respondents who said people can never tell... See, so keep in mind, even if people can't tell what they were born as, 36% is not exactly a low number. That's lower than 50 and so on. Can tell they're transgender or gender non-conforming. Suicide attempts were reported to by a higher percentage by those who said people can always tell, 42, or the most of the time, 45 tell they are transgender or gender non-conforming. So think about that. In other words, people who don't pass are more likely to commit suicide. This is why it's not for everybody. This is not why I want to get a sex change shouldn't be encouraged, because not everyone can pass. That's just the nature of the beast. That's life. It's not for everybody. I don't care to be tranny, but yet, as I said, real small. I don't. I mean, I don't know how I look on camera, but I'm not like if you put me next to any other guy, I'm not that big. I'm pretty like small. Like I don't have broad shoulders and shit like that. Uh, I'm actually, and I hate to admit this, I'm actually fairly androgynous in some ways. Like, because my skin tone, if you ever met me, you see right here where my lips are like naturally outlined. I have some fairly long eyelashes, but I think that's normal for men. I don't exactly have like a real big square jaw kind of deal. You know, suppose I have like fairly big eyes for a guy. I don't know, but that's my whole. Anyway, I'm sorry. My whole thing is suicide rates are bad on the whole spectrum. Suicide is bad across the whole spectrum. And I get tired of parties or political ideals trying to monopolize. Oh, it's only bad for this group of people, and then oh, it's bad for these reasons. No, it's bad for everyone. And your ways of coming up with a solution are also bad. For example, so for trans people who are trans, here's what I would say: a couple of months of therapy, just to make sure. Because I mean, once you start going through it, that's it. There's no going back sometimes. Like how I think Blair White was saying she's sterile now, so she can never have kids. She can never have biological kids. That is done. That chance, the opportunity is gone. So something like that is like not something you want to throw at everyone or give to everyone. But at the same time, it's not something you want to deny people. So, one, probably teach women not to be so emotional. And I'm sorry, I know I'm jumping from training to this, but I just want to, teach women not to be so emotional. That way they're less likely to commit suicide. I don't know what with men. Maybe leave it the way it is, sadly. Or just teach men, or I guess make it to where, it's more, I guess teach men to be able to try and talk it out, maybe. That's not really what men do, but I guess doing that is a better attempt. And then people who are trans, like I said, some time of therapy, and then say, hey, look, you know what? For like 1 to 3 months, cross dress. If you can't handle the looks you're gonna get from cross dressing, there is no way you're gonna handle the stares you're gonna get as you shift into being a woman, because that's gonna take a lot longer. Those are gonna be a lot worse, especially as time progresses. People are gonna be like, well, what the fuck are you? Until you finally hit the part of the visual spectrum where you look more like what you're going for. And then I think that right there would be able to take care of suicide, at least, especially at least definitely for trans people. It would at least definitely try and reduce it for them, and the rest, I think the one for women would also help reduce it. Men, I don't know, I really don't. Tell me what y'all think. I'm no psychologist. This is just the stuff I've saw and looked into. So anyway, please like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think. You agree with me or not? Don't be twitching. I know this is not exactly like most of mine, but I think suicide is kind of a hard topic, and not really one again that I'm qualified for. So I'll just give my findings and let everyone decide on their own. Anyway, you guys take care. Like, comment, subscribe. See y'all next time.